Syndicate.
Presented by Dano Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the latest edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate. We got a good one in store for you today. With you, as always, from the first kick to the last pitch. It feels weird to say first kick like it's soccer almost.
Yeah,
I guess
it is
technically we could cover some soccer. You know, if Marshall and a couple other teams advance farther, technically West Virginia's in our conference for soccer. So if they advance, we could.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just for soccer only, because I guess the Big 12 and SEC don't have teams, so Kentucky's also in our conference for soccer. So,
how about that?
For those that weren't aware, now you are. Ben James and Artie jumping in already, saying, "What's up? What's up, fellas? Thanks for joining us so early. We appreciate you guys already jumping on. We've got a couple things to get to today. We've got TJ's clips. We've got our power rankings. We've got game-by-game previews. We're going to go through those a little faster for you today. We're going to take a very quick look at the standings because right after that, we're going to look at scenarios for a few teams and what they can do to get themselves into the championship picture, and maybe just talk real quickly on whether they are likely bowl teams or not. Of course, shout out to our lovely sponsors to start off with W Energy, Fanplex Graphics, as you can see behind me, Troy and App State represented here, as well as TSN Off-Road. They're doing a little free giveaway, I guess, on LinkedIn right now. So if you go check out TSN Off-Road, you got a chance to win one of their Molly panels that's got the American flag in it. Pretty cool. And
Nice.
Dano Seasoning got that new Cajun purple top. So probably a favorite of mine if I can get my hands on it. I think it's.
Yeah, I was going to say you got to find it right now. It's limited.
Yeah, there you go. I think it is available only online at the moment. I'm sure they'll have it in the stores just like they have their other flavors. But if you want it, go grab it online. TJ, how we doing tonight, man?
Good, man. Good. Excited to be back. Another week, another exciting show to get to in terms of these matchups and talk through what some scenarios look like and get to these rankings, man. Excited for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we will go ahead and bring this up on stage to start with. Week 13 preview. As you can see, for those visually watching at the moment, every single team in this conference will play these last 2 weeks. So there's no out of conference games. There's no bye weeks left. It's all full tilt from here out until the end of the season. Ben's got a good comment for you, TJ. Surprised you don't have some football on in the background.
So tonight. I did have it on, but I stopped watching. The quarterback for Ohio he's not a very good. Well, I don't know that he's not very good. They're just not. The scheme isn't great. And so I was watching it downstairs earlier, and I was like, I don't know if it's worth turning on.
So we don't want that action taking place while we're talking Fun Belt football over here. So
right,
yeah, we'll go with that. But we will have you watch some football because up next we've got your favorite part of the show, my favorite part of the show, everybody's favorite part of the show, TJ's clip breakdown.
Go!
All right, our first clip of the night comes from the ULM versus Auburn game. Yes, there was a few bright spots for the Warhawk offense that day. We will jump into this first clip, which is going to see Armenta throw downfield to Tyler Griffin for 37 yards here. And at this point in time, it was their longest play of the day until they had the 65-yard touchdown just after this.
Yeah, so what you're seeing is a product of a team running the football a bunch, right, early on. And you've got so watch the safety walk down, right? Once that guy goes in motion, once the receiver goes in motion, and then the DB or the safety in the corner, they kind of run into each other, right? But what happens even more so than that is those DBs get nosy, right? When you've seen run, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks back, what helps the situation for the Warhawks is action before the play, right? You've got the H-back and tight end sort of shifting over, right? So then that takes them to the strong side, weak side defense. He's one-on-one, right? So now you've got pulling that right tackle. He's pulling to make this look like run all the way. And that's the key for that free safety. He's going to come down, and it's really just a good play design. And the quarterback, if you go back and look at it, quarterback did a really, really good job of understanding where his receiver was and throwing him open instead of waiting for him to get open, right? So when you see your receiver's going to come in motion, all right, I want you to take a look at, number one, the right tackle, right? He's going to make this look like run all the way, right? So your right tackle here, he's going to pull and make this look like a run. So heavy play action here. Now watch the quarterback, right? Watch where his release point is. That ball is gone now, and he's barely a yard beat. So, I mean, it's a great anticipatory throw. And he throws his receiver open rather than waiting for him to get open, because when you do that, you give that corner time to catch up and maybe make a play. You throw it early over his head, you give yourself a good chance to pick up a 37-yard reception. So excellent play call, good execution all the way around, and really one of those a byproduct of having run the ball really well, and you get DB's eyes in the backfield. Stop being nosy, DBs.
Stop being nosy, indeed. Russ is joining the program, says no Conference USA in the background because you aren't recording at the gas station.
True story.
We will get to Riley here in a minute. He says, how many alcohols does it take to cope with the Troy loss?
All the alcohols, Riley. All the alcohols.
All the alcohols. Yeah, that's probably a pretty accurate statement for where they thought they were headed and what surprise jumped out at them this past Saturday. Okay, the second play here. Most of you probably know what's coming on this one. This is JMU versus ODU. This is Barnett on his 50-yard touchdown run. This is the first play run after they received the punt right at the 50.
Yeah, good action here with the H-back, right? H-back's going to pull and lead. You're going to get run away from the play side, right? So you're going to get run away, and then that pulls those linebackers, right? Give just a step, right, is all you need, really, if you're good enough like Barnett is. So watch the play action, right? Or I guess you can call it read and pull by the running back here, and then Barnett's going to keep that and come around. But the key block for this play is going to be this lead puller, this H-back. He's going to wrap around right there, and then he's going to get him a lead block right up the field, and he's going to split it. And that's also poor tackling.
I was going to say that H-back really took two guys on that play.
Well, what happened was the corner thought he was going to go outside, right? If you look at the corner's body language, he's anticipating Barnett to hit that outside and go up the sideline. The cutback is really what did it for him. However, still, he's within a yard of you. That's terrible tackling. But this lead block right here is what springs it. So you're going to get your H-back. I think it's 17 right here. He's coming across. Also awful blocking by the receiver who comes down to get a crack. He does not crack.
He did not. He definitely did not.
he does not crack at all. He's supposed to, but he did not crack on that play even a little bit. And
no, watch him. He's at the top of the screen coming down. He does a little stutter, which is just enough, I think. But, yeah, that was pretty weak.
Yeah, it's going to be enough to get him outside. But come on, man. What are you doing? That's your block right there. Crack him.
Yep. And then the H-back would have had a clean block on that secondary.
On the corner. He would have had the corner. And the play, because the play is designed to go outside. If you look at it, it's designed to go outside. But that receiver is supposed to come down and crack on that safety who's coming up. And once that safety comes up, you crack him, pull the lead guy, which is the H-back. He gets a clean block on the corner, and that's supposed to hit up the sideline. Either way, it worked out. But, as you can see, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yes, it is. It certainly
or just have a team that does not tackle well.
Yeah, like that one specifically, which is kind of not what ODU has done throughout most of the season. They've been very solid defensively, but this game got out of hand for both defenses, really. I mean, both upwards of 30 points in that one. So obviously we've already kind of hashed that one out on the Sunday show, which actually happened on Monday night this week. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise in that one. G. Will said not as much needed for the ODU loss. And Riley's thinking that the Troy one has actually frustrated him more. Easterly had horrible pursuit.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's who that was. Yep. Horrible pursuit angle. He came down instead of coming flat across. He would have made that tackle had he come flat across, or just more effort.
Yeah. There's still a chance Southern make it to the conference championship. We need to win out and Marshall lose that. Yeah, we will touch on that. Yeah.
I'm thinking Southern Miss. I'm like, no, the hell, there's not a chance. But but Georgia Southern is what we're discussing. So yes.
Yeah. Funny enough, Marshall only has JMU and ODU left on their side. But yeah. Also, hey, AJ, what's going on? Thanks for joining in and commenting. We will definitely be getting to some of those scenarios. And I will tell you that we will not be getting into each and every scenario. We are trying to simplify it because everything's going to change after this weekend anyway. So What we're going to try and do is give you a simplified look so that we can digest it. Because if we tried to give you everything, we'd be here all night and everybody would lose focus because it's just too much to take.
Too much can happen.
Yeah. And look at that, Artie. Artie's giving us some play-by-play too. Good block by number 9 downfield. Hands up at the end of the play. Yeah. G. Wills had terrible decisions all game. Had one offsides on 4th down. Man. Yeah, it was not the game I expected to see, but it was entertaining. It was certainly entertaining. So
I was going to say, it's great. If you like offense, it was entertaining. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. All right, let's go ahead and jump in to everyone's favorite thing here, the power rankings. As we know, we now include the two of us, as well as Seth and Marv, who are constant contributors on the Sunday night show on the weekly wrap-up side of things. Tried to make this a little clearer this time around. We really, because of it's an aggregate score, we had individually a lot of movement across the board. But as far as the big picture go, we didn't go crazy here. Not a whole lot of movement. And I like this look. I don't really have a big problem with it, how it played out. But we have a little bit of movement at 4 and 5. We had Texas State swap with Georgia Southern. I know Georgia Southern fans were a little perturbed, maybe is the word to use.
Yeah, to say the least.
But I think this last game brought them back down to earth. But still getting some respect in our poll. I mean, they didn't drop greatly from 4 to 5. Still pretty good. Yeah,
I mean, they're still top 5 for sure on either side of the bracket.
Yeah, I think you question the fact that now they're sitting above ODU, and you talk about the head-to-head, what happens there, and Texas State above ODU with the head-to-head aspect. But again, once you get a little further away from those head-to-head matchups just happening, then you have to take into consideration other things, and that's maybe why this is playing out the way it is. We had South Alabama jump Arkansas State actually fall in a win. I think that's probably more so the fact that Arkansas State just really wasn't impressive against that Georgia State team. I don't know. Maybe impressive is not the right word, but we thought maybe that they would win more comfortably, even though that was the spread that we talked about was a surprise as Georgia State was the favorite going in, right, TJ?
Yeah. Georgia State certainly was the favorite, spread-wise. Listen, there's people who get paid a lot of money to make those spread calls. And we are not those people.
Yeah, we are not. I wish I was.
Yeah, me too.
We have Troy making a good jump. They've really gone on a run here lately, and they're in the 10 spot, getting over top of ULM and App State. App State, obviously the only team in the conference that did not play last week, so it makes sense why they didn't really move. The only 2 unanimous decisions across the board for all 4 of us was 13 and 14. We had Georgia State and USM, both of them, all the way across the board. Ben James disagrees about the Red Wolves. Red Wolves got the running game going in the game against Georgia State, which they did. They did not have to throw the ball much. But I think you just look at the final score and you just watch the game and just say, like, I don't know. I still feel like I wanted to see more, right? Like, yeah, I know you don't have to pass, but you haven't passed really, really well all season. I mean, Rutgers out there, and he's a great target for Jaden, going blank on his name, but Rainer. There we go. I wanted to say Jaden Daniels so bad. That's why I did.
I know you did. And I heard you say Jaden, and I was like, no, Jalen. It's Jalen.
It's definitely Jalen. Yeah. So yeah, that's the look at the big picture. I don't think there's a whole lot to discuss there. The Cajuns were 3 of the top spots for number 1. JMU took the 1, and I did break it down even further. Again, we won't spend a ton of time on this. but we will jump into TJ and I's specifically real quick. Again, not a ton of, especially TJ, didn't have a ton of movement there this week. I had a little bit more, but mine were all like very incremental jumps and movements, I feel like.
We got some similarities at the top.
Yeah, a few. I think the top three are all like pretty solid. Yeah.
I probably could have put Troy ahead of ULM. I wanted to give ULM the benefit of the doubt, but I told you this, I think, earlier today, they have disappointed me this year. They started out really, really hot, and I thought they were going to end the season that way, and they just disappointed. I mean, these last few games have been not good. Well, and also they played Auburn, so that doesn't really help. But the two before that, just not good looks at all. So I'm interested to hear how you have App State ahead of ULM. What went into that decision?
I punished ULM for continuing to lose, essentially.
It is 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's why they kept just kind of continue to drop. Here's my other thing. A couple of times across these power rankings, I look at who can beat who and if I think I'm comfortable with it.
Right.
Do I think App State's defense is great? No. Obviously, that's their downside. It has been all season. But I don't know if ULM's offense is good enough to put up enough points to beat an App State offense who still routinely puts up more yards and has more first downs than the opposition. Sure. They haven't won some of those games because their defense has been bad. But again, I don't think ULM's offense is good enough to kind of overcome a scoring fest. I don't think they could keep up with that.
You're saying if it came down to it, we would outscore them. It might be 50-49, but
exactly.
I got you. Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, and again, I do think it'd be like the Georgia State game. Like, I don't think these teams down here at the bottom. Well, okay, sans Southern Miss, I do think they're quite a bit at the bottom. I think even Georgia State,
way down there.
Yeah, it's just not good. Their offense is anemic, even more so than ULM's, because at least ULM has a pretty good running back. It's just whether they can block for him and he can get down the field long enough. The quarterbacks are struggling, right, but not as bad as Southern Miss's. So yeah, I mean those three teams there at 11, 12, and 13 for me. You have maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, where you kind of probably say it's kind of a coin toss up type thing. And then I got Troy up at 8. I rewarded them greatly for how strong they've been. Yeah, and Ben is saying I don't see why Troy is above A-State when they beat them. Again, this is after you get so far away from the head-to-heads, I just think Troy's hotter right now. I would trust Troy to get the victory more so than the Red Wolves. Obviously, I could be wrong, but again, these are our thoughts, so that's what we got to go with.
Yeah. The Troy won Saturday. High as 6, huh?
But yeah, maybe on the power rankings. I don't know about the standings. Oh, here see now we got the trash out. We got Ben going now. He's heated up. All right. Well, let's take a quick look at the other guys before we go on to the game by game. Look at this. Marv's standings took a beating. I mean, like he didn't keep anybody the same except for
everybody moved this up. Yeah,
down there.
He's got OU.
And I don't know what his thought process is. Yeah,
does he hate
shocking
OU?
To me that he put them. I don't know what his thought process is. Sometimes I wonder if you just kind of slot guys when you don't know what else to do with them. And
yeah, but 12 just seems. G. Wills, I need you to chime in here.
Yeah.
Because you gave me hell for that, and I need you to do the same for Marv.
Artie's in favor of Seth's ranking because he's got Texas State at 3. I think Texas State, just like Troy to me, is rounding into a really good form at the right time of the year.
Yeah, I think I had Texas State at 4 or 5. So, I mean, still pretty respectable for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben's a little bit higher up on Marvin Seth's rankings because he's got A-State a lot. I don't know. Seth's got A-State at 8. I mean, I don't think that's much better than where we have.
Yeah,
A-State
I think I had A-State at.
I have him at 10. You have him at 9. So I mean,
9. Yeah.
Yeah. So not crazy. I was surprised Marv put JMU at 1. To me.
Yeah, that surprised me. It was a good win, but I don't know that I would have put him ahead of Louisiana right now.
I couldn't do that. If you look back at it, you kind of noticed it really during the game, but even more so in the box score. When you look back at the box score, they had a terrible, terrible first half. In the second half, they shut out the Jaguars. They did not let South Alabama score a single point in the second half.
Right.
So they fell asleep for one half of football, and they lost by a game of inches because of the failed 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't punish them that much when JMU squeaked by an ODU team.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. That was my thought process on that. Ben is saying JMU is by far the better team between them and Louisiana, in my opinion. Ooh, that's rough. I don't think by far.
By far is a bit much.
Yeah. Could they be better?
Head-to-head.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm not confident. I'd be shocked if the spread was more than like 1 or 2 points for that game.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 max, and that's just to the home team.
Yes, exactly the same thought. You're going to have the home team favored. That's pretty much all it comes down to. So it could be the matchup. We will talk about that here in a minute. So now that we've covered all that, we will jump into these games. Again, going through these probably a little faster than typically we would, but we want to get to the scenarios. I think a lot of people have a lot more interest in that than the games specifically, but we do want to jump into there and obviously go over those. So JMU is favored in Boone on Saturday by a clean 7 points at this moment. The total over-under is 58.5 points. And I did us a favor, TJ. I grabbed these like right before we.
I was just checking. So you're probably spot on then. Okay.
Better if I'm not, it's changed within the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. So probably not. No, I agree with the point total. I think JMU wins by more than 7. I don't think Appalachian State's defense is very good at all. We've talked about this all year long, right? App State is different. Offensively, we can keep up with just about anybody. Now, we don't throw the ball across the middle and attack the safeties as much as I'm with you already. Get 7 seems low. I say at least 10 to 14 in terms of what I predict us to lose by, which sounds horrible to say. As a matter of fact, at this point, I'm kind of used to saying it this season, although it won't stay this way. So don't get used to me saying that.
The trash talk will be back.
Right. Well, here's the thing, and we talked about this. We're a spoiled fan base. We have not had a season like this literally since 2005 that I can remember. That's been this bad. So, we're just used to winning, and that's fine. That's okay. Anyway, back to the topic. I do think the spread should be a little bit higher, 10 to maybe 14 points. I think JMU punches us in the mouth on offense, but I do think we're able to keep up. And we'll score. We just won't score enough. We won't get enough. We won't have the chance to score enough. Does that make sense? Like they'll possess the ball more than we will.
Yeah, I don't really have any doubt about that. Their defense has definitely been. It's hard to say that, right? They just allowed over 30 points to ODU, who has been scoring more, but hasn't been a massive offensive threat all season. So maybe that skews the picture a little bit there, and it's harder to read.
Or maybe they're pissed off, and then they don't let us score 30.
Yeah, that's true. G. Wills wants us to do what ODU couldn't and close the door on them. Seth is hammering the 7, and G. Will says, well, it's time to flip the script, TJ.
It's time.
Yeah, I will be there. I will be bundled up. This is by far the coldest game of the weekend. An average temp expected to be about 40, maybe slightly lower.
I thought earlier in the week it said frozen, but maybe it jumped back up.
Yeah, well, I think the only reason it's probably that real field temp is going to be lower than 40 because it's going to be sunny, so you're going to get a little warmth from the sun, but it's going to be cold temperature-wise. So I believe that the real field will be in the 30s somewhere, maybe around that freezing mark. But you have the sun coming out and maybe warming things up. The coldest game other than that right now looks to be like it'll be in Norfolk, which will be a balmy 53, but still about 13 degrees warmer than what Boone's going to present. Seth, Marvin, and I will be at this one live. Last home game for App. Maybe they go out on a high note. I'll be hoping for it. I think the guys from JMU Sound Off will be in attendance. There's the guys from the Tyler's podcast. There's 2 Tylers that do a sports show that are coming to their first ever game in Boone, so that should be cool. Hopefully they bundle up. But yes, take JMU and the 7 points. I think you can just trust this team more than you can trust App State. App State now missing Caden Robinson, their leading receiver. on the season for the rest of the year as well. So that's not going to help them in the vertical game. Dalton Stroman maybe leaned on more. Monty Marshall, coming off a bye week. Did they start a little slow? JMU's in rhythm, ready to go after scoring all those points against ODU last week. I'm favoring the Dukes in this one, even though I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to either, but we got to do what we got to. We got to be smart.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so take the Dukes in that one if you want to make a little cash from the sounds of it from us. But what do we know? We've only gotten like half the games right this year. But
right, yeah, literally probably half.
Oh boy, TJ Corso is on the show tonight. That one coming in from Tyler Austin. Glad Tyler's joining the show. Okay, next up, ESPN Plus. I think every game but one is on ESPN Plus this Saturday if you're looking for the coverage. That first one starts the day off for the Sun Belt. Gets started a little early than this 3 o'clock kickoff. But Arkansas State favored by just 2.5 points against ULM. The Warhawks will be hosting this one, where before playing Texas State, they had been pretty good and undefeated at home. Do they get back in the winning ways, or do you think Arkansas State's, run game waking up last week is going to be in their favor and they can take this one, TJ?
I think based on what I saw, I was just about to say the same thing, Ben. Based on what I saw, so here's the thing. The Red Wolves offense, right, and ULM's defense, I think are going to kind of clash, right? And so obviously the Warhawks, they don't score a lot of points. Arkansas State's defense isn't great, but they're good enough, right? So I think it's a battle of strength on strength with this offense versus defense. I think, though, that Jalen Rayner makes one or two more plays than the Warhawks are able to, and I think they win in a close one. So I like the spread here, 2.5. If they win by 3, that'd be pretty much spot on for what I'm thinking. Certainly not picking more than that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got this. I got a note wrong.
Emotionally, this is a big game for ULM because this is a chance to go to a bowl. So, it's a lot. There's a lot at play here.
I did flip this one, so just so we are clear, I want to correct myself. Ben corrected me. This one is actually in Jonesboro, not in Monroe. So, in case that came into play for you at all, it is. They will have a water feature in the stadium for this one. So
that is
it is in Jonesboro. Tyler's liking Arky, as he says. They've continued to go up while ULM has declined. Yeah, that's the question mark here. Is ULM decline like consistent, and is it going down, or is it just a couple bad games and they can right the ship? If they can right the ship, to me, it's this game right here. They've got a lot of promise to start the season. People started expecting bowl games. Some Warhawk fans probably expected a conference championship chance. That is not completely out the window, but it's an uphill battle. We'll get to that in a little bit. I don't know what I like here. I honestly don't know what I like. This one is a coin flip to me. But, man.
I'm taking Jalen Rayner.
I'm going under on the total. I'll tell you that. 52.5, I'm going under.
Oh, for sure.
These two teams to score that many points. They're both going to be running the ball, I think, a lot. I think if they have to throw the ball, I trust the A-State offense a little bit more. What Rayner can do to get himself open, what he has in Rucker downfield. Corey Rucker's been solid. I think he's a surefire NFL pick, maybe a later round, but I think he's going to find himself there one day. Man, if I'm picking them, I say they cover. I don't like the 2.5. I don't think they win by 1 point, although this is what they just did last weekend, right? But yeah. Or no, they won by a full touchdown against Georgia State, actually. Was it 27-20, I think? But yeah. I think I'll take the Red Wolves in this one. I think I'll uncomfortably take the Red Wolves winning in this one. But again, ULM has a lot to play for, trying to get to a bowl game for the first time in forever.
The emotional aspect of this is very high for ULM.
Yeah. And Artie Cat saying 50 points seems high.
We agree.
A-State undefeated at home. Again, close games though, so
yeah, I think it stays
for what it's worth. Yeah, very, very possible.
Yeah.
This one down in Southern Miss. We got 1-9, 0-6 Southern Miss. Do they have a chance in hell versus the
The short answer is no.
No.
I don't. Not a snowball's chance in hell. 22.5 seems light. I think South Alabama's offense is too much. You already know how I feel about their quarterback. I think he's really, really good. He's not super athletic, right? Like he's not going to run he's not going to run 4.3 down the field. But his escapability and the way he runs, he's a powerful guy, right? Like he's kind of stocky. I like the way he's built. He kind of reminds me of Wisconsin Russell Wilson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I like the way he runs. Again, he's not going to light it up. He's not going to run 4.5, but he runs well enough, right? So I like that about their offense, and I don't think Southern stands a chance.
Yeah, I tend to agree. This one's probably going to be the one we spend the least amount of time on. I do want to throw a shout out to Tyler's Talking Sports. That's the official name of their podcast. Check them out. They do good stuff. Again, both of them are named Tyler, so it's going to be really easy if you meet them while you're on the streets of Boone on Saturday because you can't mess up their names. And nice. Tyler often appreciates their name of their show. So, yes. But getting back to this one, I think the running game is going to be too strong. They're going to be able to possess the hell out of this game. I mean, Southern Miss can't keep their offense on the field. We'll make their defense tired. We'll make an explosive offense for South Alabama be able to be electric or slow the game down. Just depends on what they want to do. I think that's really what this game's going to be. I think you're seeing that with the 22.5 points. I would take that pretty comfortably. I would even take – I know Tyler Austin was saying take the under. I'd probably take the over in this because I think South Alabama could put up 40 plus all on their own. If the Southern Miss find 10 points in there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my question mark.
I mean, they do have 4 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So,
yeah. Ben James wants to know if the basketball show is live tomorrow. It will be. It's going to be later because Zach is going to be at a live game. So we're going to start at probably about 9:30. So for those on Central Time, it's going to be great. It's going to be 8:30 start for y'all. It's still easy to catch up on. Artie says Southern Miss might set a conference record for worst record. Not sure as any Sunbelt team lost. If any Sunbelt team has won 0 conference games, it's probably happened before, and I would assume that ULM was that team.
Yeah, probably.
What's up to Terry Walker? Thanks for joining the show. Ben assumes USA will go off. Yeah. And Tyler saying that's 8 touchdowns, though. That's tough to find those for these two. I don't think it's tough to find for South Alabama what they're capable of.
Especially what they did to App State.
Yeah, what they did to App State, what they did in the first half against Louisiana. I mean, that defense, I think, is better than what you're going to see versus Southern Miss. So,
100%.
Yeah. And Vernal Sports says, good evening, chat. What's going on? Thanks for joining the show. We will get on to the next matchup of the weekend. This one pits Georgia Southern going up against Coastal Carolina. This one down in Conway, a very important game. Coastal out of it, just like App State is on the east side. But Georgia Southern still has a chance at the conference championship game, so they will need this one. However, check out that spread, 2.5 points in favor of the Chants in this one. Do you agree or disagree?
So I actually agree with that. I'm actually picking Coastal at home for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's hard to play in that stadium. You've been there. I've been there. It's insane. The atmosphere is crazy. It's just a different electricity for Coastal when they get home, right? That's first thing. Second thing is Coastal's 5-5. They know that one more win takes them to a bowl game. I ride high on the emotional aspect of these games when it comes to, hey, fellas, we need one more win, right? That's not to say that Georgia Southern is not going to come in because Georgia Southern has a lot to play for too. They can still technically, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, they still have a shot at winning the East. So this game matters to them too. I just think that Coastal's going to do a little bit more to win this game, and I think it's so hard to play. I've never played down there, but I've certainly been to a couple games down there, and it is hard to play. It's hard to hear in that stadium. So it's going to be a show, but I'm taking Coastal to win by 3.
Okay, at least to cover there. I do like your reasoning, and I do agree with you though on the other side that Georgia Southern has as much at least, if not more, to play for because they could gun for that championship game as well. To note, if Coastal doesn't win this one, because we won't talk about them later in the scenario since they're out of the championship picture, they can have a chance at a bowl even after this because they travel down to Atlanta to play Georgia State to finish off the season. So still a very good and likely chance that Coastal will end up in a bowl game. Remains to be seen where. Also still have the possibility of playing in their home stadium for a bowl game. So that's kind of one of those weird situations like Boise has had in the past on that blue field. They could have that teal turf. This one's so up in the air, right? You had Dexter Williams leave the program for Georgia Southern. They just had another player defensively who was either dismissed or left the program on his own accord. Are they falling apart? They've fallen apart the last few seasons at the end, but they've gone winless in November and even struggled towards the end part of October a few times. So is that what's happening here? Is it happening again? And for those reasons, I might have to side with you about 2.5 points, but it wouldn't shock me if Southern can get the win. I think no matter what, this one's close, though.
This will probably be the best game in the Sun Belt to watch this week, just because of what's riding on this for both teams, right? But bowl game challenge or bowl game chance, and then also, like you said, a chance for Georgia Southern to go and win the East. There's a lot riding for both teams. Obviously, more a little bit for Georgia Southern, but I just think it's tough to play down at Coastal. So,
yeah, Tyler does make a good point. Students could be leaving Friday, and this is 3:30. No, to be fair to TJ, really we've only experienced night games there, so that's a little different aspect. So a day game, again, you've seen it too. I mean, you played at App State when they had weekend games before Thanksgiving break, and it was definitely a drop in attendance.
Sure.
It'll be interesting because, again, they do have a lot to play for. Do some of the students say, I'm going to delay my trip home because I got, this is a party. We're going to get to a bowl game. Again, that could be a big aspect to that there. Yeah, we'll have to see. But, yeah, I think both of us are pretty comfortable leaning towards Coastal at this very moment so far, especially since they're playing at home. Okay. 5 o'clock kick, 4 Central Time. The Cajuns host the Troy Trojans at Cajun Field, or half of Cajun Field, as it may be right now with the construction going on. But again, a first half snooze fest. The Cajuns woke up but couldn't quite overcome against South Alabama last week. Meanwhile, Troy coming in probably the hottest they've been and the best they've looked all season. Goose Crowder out. Now we've got Caldwell here, who just had a great week. So I don't know. Any chance for another possible upset 2 weeks in a row? The Cajuns go down, or you think they right the ship here?
No, they right the ship this week. I don't think it happens 2 weeks in a row. I think they kind of rested on their laurels last week and kind of got a little lax, a little lazy. I think Troy has the ability, certainly, or at least in the past, they have had the ability to upset. But I think the Cajuns bounce back, and the spread, 10 points, worries me. The total, I think 52.5. I'm certainly taking the over on that, but the spread worries me because it may be closer than we think. That said, though, I'm still picking the Cajuns.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm leaning on about the spread being my concern, because, again, I think the Cajuns bounce back. I think they had one bad half of football so far this year. Their only other loss was to a very good Tulane team, which they could have overcome with avoiding some of those penalties and turnovers there. So it's not like they were schematically beaten all that bad. They kind of beat themselves a little bit, shall we say. Warren thinks they're going to get the win. Tyler likes to play championship heartbreaking, deal out heartbreaking losses there. Artie Cat is rooting for the Trojans to take this one as well, even though him and Ben both can't stand the Cajuns in this one. They don't like either team, I guess is what they're saying. But, you've got to think now Woolridge out for the rest of the year officially. Chandler Fields will become the starter. He did come in relief. He did do very well last week to keep them in the game and give them every chance to win. Actually, the play call and the 2-point conversion was an illegal formation anyway, so the play would not have stood no matter what they did. But did not like the play call they tried to execute there on the 2-point conversion. I think I would have liked to have seen Fields get rolled out and have some options to either run or throw it into the end zone.
Right.
They just kind of ran it straight up. I mean, I guess it was a little off tackle, but yeah. He was a guy last year. He saw time on the field last year. It's not like this is a unexperienced quarterback coming in and trying to right the ship at the wrong time. I think he's going to be fine leadership-wise, execution-wise, to get done what needs to get done in order for the Cajuns to get back into their winning ways. But yes, I do question the 10-point spread. I think this one could be a very, very close game with what Troy is doing. I mean, going to Buc-ee's, man, it changes you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Coach Parker, for those that might have missed the other show, took the whole team to Buc-ee's because apparently he promised them Buc-ee's had they got the victory last Saturday, and they sure as hell did. So they took a trip to Buc-ee's, and he paid for the whole thing. So very, very cool there. I will take my first trip to Buc-ee's as soon as I see one. TJ, have you run across a Buc-ee's anywhere?
I have not. Heard good things, though.
Yeah, I've heard good things, except for if you get to a new one. And yes, Ben, quarterback is out, and he thinks that if so, Louisiana loses this game. Well, we'll have to see about that one. What do we got here next? 2 more games, I believe, on the docket as Georgia State travels down to San Marcos, Slam Marcos, as they call it during baseball season, to take on the Bobcats. Again, a heavy favorite for the second time this weekend, as Texas State favored by 20.5 points, a total over under of 57.5. This is the first of 2 night games kicking off at 7 p.m. This one on ESPN Plus. All right, Ishmael Mahdi's here on the screen. You trust him and the running backs and Jordan McLeod and everybody over there, the Bobcats side, to get it done against the Georgia State Panthers?
Yeah. I think 20 points is about right. 21 points is about right. I think Texas State is just too much. They got a high-powered offense. I mean, you know that. I know that. They've played great all year. And most games anyway. I think Georgia State they'll get a better look from their practice squad than they'll get against Georgia State. Defensively, Georgia State's defense is not very good at all. 20 points, 21 points. They'd be lucky if that's all it is.
Yeah, I think so. I will say I think Georgia State's defense has improved, which is hard to say when you're sitting there looking at a 2-8 record and 0-6. But just before the last week or two, actually last week they were still in it too. But besides that UConn game, I feel like they've been in most other games. I think Georgia Southern was another one that was more than a 1-score game. But that App State game with an offense like App's, and they were still in it because they were doing enough on defense to keep them within reach. That's the only question I have in this one, but I don't have any sense of hope that the Panthers are going to spring an upset on the Bobcats. That's one thing I definitely don't see happening.
Yeah, I'm not calling that at all.
Yeah, my only question is the 20.5 points. I think that Texas State can certainly pull it off, but, and again, they need this game just as much as anybody else who's in the battle for the West, because they're up there. It's technically tied for second place at the moment. So they need the Cajuns to lose one more at least, and they need to get some help along the way and keep winning themselves. And Ben is saying he wants the Red Wolves to have the Cats lose in this one. He needs the Bobcats to lose in this one. Since they're both Cats, we have to explain which one we're talking about there. Texas has over 5,000 mountain lions. That is a artifact I did not expect to see today.
Yeah, not at all. I would not have counted on that.
No. I did know that Louisiana has the most gators per capita, even more than the state of Florida. So that's an interesting one I've learned. And this is the first I've ever heard that Texas has any mountain lions. So interesting. Did not know that. But yeah, Bobcats to win. If I had to put money on it, I am leaning towards the 20.5 points being covered. But would be tentative just on the outside of that. All right, the only nationally televised game of the weekend for the Sun Belt should be a really good one, as it pits Marshall going to Norfolk to face ODU, where the Monarchs are favored currently by 2 points. Is this the second week in a row that Marshall has been the underdog, technically? Were they the underdog last week?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. They were picked to lose. I think it was, let me see.
I was surprised to see ODU favored. Again, really not a bad game against JMU, right? They just didn't come out on the right side of it. But
yeah, they were picked to lose. They were picked to lose at Coastal last week.
Maybe that plays into their hands, and they like that. I don't know. Interesting, very interesting, and we'll see why it's even more interesting when we get into some of these scenarios here in just a minute. Ben is saying ODU loses.
Okay.
Are you saying ODU upsets the Herd, which technically by Vegas books or whatever, I guess you say that it's not an upset.
Would not be an upset, but I do think this is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, this one being the nightcap on ESPNU, I'm going to be happy to sit there and watch this one because I think this is good. Tyler believes this is a slap in the face to Marshall and that he's sorry. I believe it's I think there's probably ODU fans out there that are shocked that they're favored by 2, if I'm being honest. But yeah, see, here we go. G. Will saying Vegas, don't do drugs. That is I don't think it should be a good spread in Marshall's favor. Like, I don't even see 7 points, but I do.
No. I think, if either team wins by 7 points, I'd be shocked. Unless something just fell apart. Yeah.
G. Will says he's one of them. Ben thinks that Marshall wins at least by a touchdown or 3. That would shock me. Here's the other thing we have to think about for G. Will that is going to be on his side and the bad side for the Marshall Thundering Herd fan. AJ Green, the leading running back for the Herd, and I still believe he's also the leading running back for the conference in general, was in a walking boot last week, did not touch the field. Not officially ruled in or out for the remaining 2 games. That is a massive mark. Now, Ethan Payne, I mentioned this on Monday night, very capable of running the ball, but you do have to say that those are 2 very different styles of running back. And Ethan Payne has been great because he's been more of that third down back, change of pace back.
Right.
He hasn't been the feature back. And so what does that change? Now, I trust Braylon Braxton to get it done at the quarterback position because he can also be a running threat. So I don't really have a downside. I like that Marshall defense too. But again, ODU's offense has been scoring more points here as of late. Their defense has been really good, except for that game last week against JMU where they allowed them over 30 points. But yeah, I think this one's going to be a really, really good, fun matchup to watch. And both teams, again, ODU has to win their remaining 2 games to qualify for a bowl game. And again, get to this very, very outside shot of still getting to the Sun Belt Championship game, believe it or not. Tyler's asking if Marshall by 3. Yeah, I'd probably say that's what I would have expected, more along the lines of that, or maybe even like some wacky line like 4.5, just because you say, did they only win by a touchdown or a field goal or 2 field goals of like 6 points, Right. I don't know. G. Will says, okay, Ben, don't do drugs. Oh, man. Yeah. All right. So we did go through those things a little bit faster, and that's going to put us at the fun stuff. But before we get there, we do need to take a quick look at the standings so we know what we're dealing with going in. I will continue to rehash these standings as we talk about them because they do not exist on the next pages. So you've got Marshall up there at 5-1. Georgia Southern, James Madison on the east side. And here it is. Both tied at 4-2. ODU 3-3. Coastal, App State, Georgia State all out. No chance at a Sun Belt Championship game for those 3. So you've just got those 4 at the top. And on the west side, you've got the Cajuns at the same record as Marshall, 5-1 coming in. You've got Texas State, Arkansas State, South Alabama all tied at 4-2. So technically all tied for second at the moment. We'll get into the tiebreakers in a second. And ULM, just like ODU, coming in with a 3-3 record, both still clinging on to hopes that they can get some help and do enough on their own to get in. We'll start off this first look. So plain and simple, here it is. The top team in the East right now but the top team in the West and top team in the East, both here on the screen, they control their own destinies. Plain and simple. These 2 teams win their next 2 games. They are in. They will go head-to-head in the Sun Belt Championship game. That one really didn't need a whole lot of explanation, right, TJ?
Right, yeah. Win and you're in, essentially.
Win and you're in. Now, the interesting thing to note here is if Marshall falters at all, and they have struggled on the road this season, going just 1-3 on the road so far. They do finish the season at ODU and at JMU. They own no tiebreakers. Now, those tiebreakers that they would be in need of are against the two teams they still have left on the schedule. So at some point, they may end up with a tiebreaker. But at this current moment, they do not own the tiebreaker over Georgia Southern, which, again, is the only other team in contention with them for the East title. So interesting scenario there. Two very winnable games, but not easily, I don't think. We just talked about the one.
Especially not that JMU one.
Yeah, especially at JMU, too. I mean, that is a place, much like App State, that will have their stadium packed for that game. And officially a sellout, I believe, 100%. Already. So, on the west side now, the Cajuns finish with Troy, that one at home, as we just talked about. But they also go on the road to play the Warhawks to finish the season. Again, we know not necessarily the rivalry that everybody maybe thinks from the outside, because it's such a weird thing where I don't think the Cajun fans really see the Warhawks as much of their rival. I think they honestly see more of like a Troy rivalry, a Southern Miss rivalry, even a Texas State rivalry over ULM as far as like competitiveness and one that they actually get really excited for. But to note, that series is crazy. I mean, there's games all the time where the Cajuns should win and ULM wins, and then ULM looks like they're going to come in as the favorite on random years, and the Cajuns beat them. So interesting. But TJ, note those tiebreakers right there.
Yep.
The Cajuns already have wins.
Arkansas and Texas State. Yep.
Yes, and those two teams are directly below them in the standings. They could own the tiebreaker over ULM at the very end, but again, if they were to beat ULM, they don't really need the tiebreaker over ULM because at that point, there's no way ULM could tie them with the record overall. So it becomes a lot less meaningful at that point. We can pause here for anybody who has any questions. But again, I think this one is the one that makes the most sense and is the easiest to digest because they control their own destiny.
Right.
So, yeah, water break for the two of us. But now we get into a little bit more of the interesting scenario. And I will tell you that I kept this as East and West, tried to keep it because some of them kind of mirror each other with what the record currently is and where they kind of sit overall. Right. Georgia Southern and Texas State both currently on the screen now, both sitting at 4-2 in conference overall. Georgia Southern finishes at Coastal Carolina, as we just discussed, and at home versus App State. So they have what I consider the easiest slate left. I mean, technically, by record of their other teams, right, TJ?
Yeah, I would say certainly define easy, but yeah, easiest for sure, because both of those games are losable. We didn't think ODU would go in and slip up against App State the way that they did, but it happened. So, you got to play, right? And that's why they play the game. But certainly the easiest way out, in my opinion.
Yes, easiest way out. And note the tiebreakers they already have. Look at those names on there.
Yeah.
JMU and Marshall. They're two probably toughest opponents as you would have looked at going into the season, right? They now own the tiebreakers over both of them. So if either of those teams slip up, and again, Marshall only has to slip up one time, and they have two tough games left. Georgia Southern back in the driver's seat with the same record as Marshall men because they own the tiebreaker over them. So
that's tough.
Very interesting scenario. As much as Georgia Southern fans are down and thinking things are going the wrong direction, and they may be, there's also the chance that they get right back up there and are competing for a conference championship.
So I picked Coastal to win at when Georgia Southern comes to Conway, but I don't know based on this scenario now. Georgia Southern's got a lot to play for.
Yeah, they do.
Now playing spoiler is always fun, and also you got a shot at a bowl game if you're Coastal. So spoiler is always fun, and then also you get a bowl game out of it. So that said, though, I don't know if I want to keep my pick.
I know, right? That's why they both have so much to play for, and I man, it's so hard to predict the Sun Belt, which makes it really fun to keep checking in on, because even as an outside fan who doesn't have a favorite in this conference, like, what the hell's happening? Who's going to take it? This race for the championship is just as interesting to me, if not more so, than the college football playoff, to be honest, because there's no committee. These teams are going to get it done in the divisions to make themselves meet in the championship. And that's awesome. I love the fact that that's a possibility on the field. Obviously with the committee, there's a whole nother aspect to what could happen. So before we move on though, we do have to talk about Texas State as well. Again, 4-2, currently tied in three-way tie for second place over there on the west side. They finish up with a decently easy, I don't have them as the easiest left. I'll get to that next one. Next slide, but they play Georgia State this weekend, and again, as we discussed, and then they finish on the road, though, at South Alabama. However, yeah, they currently own the tiebreakers. Oh, that's a little bit of a mistake there. Over Arkansas State and Texas State. Let me see. That should be over ULM and Arkansas State. So that is a typo there. Sorry. They do not own the tiebreaker over themselves. Maybe they do. I mean, I guess at that point it doesn't matter. But yes, they own the tiebreaker over Arkansas State and ULM. So they do have two tiebreakers. One of them is just mislabeled there. So they are sitting comfortable if the Cajuns slip up above them. However, the Cajuns have to lose one more because the Cajuns own the tiebreaker over Texas State. I did not list, again, all those scenarios, too much to digest. But, yeah, the Cajuns cannot be beat if they finish with the same record as Texas State. So Texas State needs to get these wins and a little bit of help. Not a lot, but a little bit of help with the Cajuns going down on that one. And thank goodness we beat those two is what Artie's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So a fighting chance there for sure. And some more teams with a fighting chance here. Again, these teams are labeled as work to do. Still, I think, reasonable to expect any of these to be the outcomes in this. This next slide includes JMU, which is 4-2 on the east side, and Arkansas State 4-2 on the west side. Again, JMU goes to Boone and plays App State this weekend and then faces Marshall at home to end the year. Their only tiebreaker at the moment is over ODU. So that one, because ODU is a whole game behind them in the standings too, a little less important. I don't know. I mean, Georgia Southern did get the win over JMU. So again, Georgia Southern's sitting in a better position.
A little bit better. Yeah, they're kind of in the driver's seat.
Yeah. I mean, Marshall's obviously in it, but as soon as they slip up, if they do, Georgia Southern looks real good.
I think Marshall could absolutely slip up against JMU.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even consider that a slip up, in my opinion. Like that is a winnable game for JMU. I think I'd be interested to see next week when we do our show who's going to be favored. And I think a lot of that will depend on what Marshall does this week, obviously, against ODU. But I'd be interested to see what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested. We will kind of redo this and have an even better look because we could probably go over the fewer scenarios that could be coming out of next week when we get a clear look after what happens this weekend for sure. Ben James thinks A-State to win out is very doable, and I think he's right. I think A-State is very capable of winning their last two matchups. They have both of them at home. It includes ULM and ODU. I do think the ODU matchup is going to be tougher, but I think still you'd have to say very winnable. To note, A-State only owns the tiebreaker over South Alabama, though. So again, they are tied in the standings currently with South Alabama, but they do not own the tiebreaker over Texas State or the Cajuns, which makes their work to do a little bit tougher because they're going to need some help above them as well, rather than just winning these games. But I mean, again, you agree that winnable games there, it makes it a possibility?
Yeah, I think certainly ULM. I think they're going to have a tough time against ODU. I think ODU knows what's on the line, especially if ODU comes in and somehow I don't want to use the word upset because I think they're actually favored. But if they get a win over Marshall, then I think they come in riding high against Arkansas State, and I think they might put them away. So we'll see. But ULM definitely winnable. But ODU, I think ODU, the outcome of A-State versus ODU is going to be contingent on the outcome of Marshall ODU. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense, and I agree with that. Definitely do. Ben James thinks the Red Bulls winning close ones. Artie thinks ULM gets the victory this weekend.
Okay.
And
Listen,
and you,
it would
yeah,
be consistent with what we initially thought
true.
of ULM in the beginning of the season, right? It would
Right.
be consistent with what our initial thoughts were of where we, or at least my thoughts of where we put them.
Yeah. And G. Wills can't wait to ruin Ben's day next week as his
Oh.
Monarchs travel over there to Arkansas State.
Don't let that slide.
Yeah. The last one with work to do, and then we have more work to do. But South Alabama, again, that last team on the West, there is no team on the East in this predicament any longer. So we will go to the people that need more help after this. But South Alabama finishes the season at Southern Miss, very winnable game. And then they host Texas State, which is a little less winnable, but I think a competitive game, right?
Yeah, they're certainly competitive. I think they lose it, though. It's well, I don't know. They're at South Alabama. Because listen, you got to think about it this way, right? Because Texas State has – who does Texas State have this week?
Texas State has Georgia State.
Georgia State. So Texas State. So you got to think both of these teams are going to come in presumptively with wins, right? So they know what's at stake, right? So most likely, so then you're setting yourself up at the end of the year for a clash of the Titans. I think if you're at this game, or if you're, I'll certainly be watching. I want to watch all of these. It's just hard when they're all and there's some at the same time. You do the full screen. But I think you set yourself up for a great game. I just think Texas State has too much offensively. Now, Gio Lopez is probably my favorite player in the Sun Belt this year. I would say safely he's probably my favorite player. Just his style of play. Yeah. Now, that said, though, I don't know if he's enough because Ishmael Mahdi, and what they have offensively, they just got a plethora of weapons. So is he enough to counteract that? Anyway, I'm saying a lot of words. I just think we're setting ourselves up for a really good – because, we'd be silly not to pick either of these teams to win the next game or this week in the easy. And then set himself up for a pretty good matchup at the end of the season. So we'll see. Yeah,
definitely will. And to note, tiebreaker over the most important team that they need to have the tiebreaker over, Louisiana at the top. So if they get there with the record, they've got a great shot. But we'll see if that happens. Because, again, Cajuns need to slip up at least one time for that to come into effect. Otherwise, it's not going to be helpful. So if the Jaguars slip up, that not looking too good. But if they could win those last two games, they'd certainly have a shot to get there. Ben James wants to know what happened. And General Booty just wasn't getting it done. So Armenta became the guy. Although against Auburn, Booty did see the field again because that game kind of got out of hand. So
it was Auburn, yeah.
All right. Here are the last two teams we will talk about. Work to do and help needed. ODU on the east side, 3-3. ULM on the west side, also 3-3. And interesting enough, both of these teams have A-State left on their record.
Mm-hmm.
Or schedule, I should say. ODU owns the tiebreaker over Georgia Southern, which is an interesting aspect to this because if they can get the wins they need, we've just talked about where Georgia Southern could be placed with their tiebreakers over others. This one's one of the only ones that's a little surprising with where ODU is in the standings that they own the tiebreaker over the Eagles. But again, hosting Marshall this weekend, not easy, but they are favored. And then they travel to Jonesboro to finish the season. And then on ULM side, they travel to Jonesboro this weekend and finish the season against the Cajuns at home. But ULM has no tiebreakers on their side. Obviously,
so they need a
2 wins against teams ahead of them. They would then have those tiebreakers, but they'd have to win those. And that's a huge uphill climb. I think ULM has the toughest schedule left.
No doubt.
These teams, mainly because the Cajuns are in first place, and that's not going to be an easy game to win. But also because A-State has a lot to play for.
I was going to say they got a bowl game to play for.
Yeah,
because they're 5-4, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, they're 6-4. So technically, they already have a bowl game.
Yes, that's correct.
But they can play for first place in the West for sure.
G Wills is updating, and there isn't a way we can make it even if we win this week. App beats JMU. We get screwed by Marshall playing JMU, and the winner of that will be ahead. Maybe I missed that when I'm looking at everything. Well, you play Marshall, and you would own the tiebreaker over Marshall. Marshall could finish with a 5-3 record. I think if App beats
but Marshall
JMU,
would need to lose. Marshall would need to lose twice. They need to lose to ODU and JMU,
which could happen.
Absolutely could happen.
So if you have JMU, you'd have to have a bunch of teams in front of you lose for ODU to make it. That's the crazy part. Like, I just don't see all those losses to all those top teams happening. That's the bottom line of it. I think we're missing something there, but JMU then has that. Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because they would end up with the same record, JMU would have the tiebreaker.
Oh, JMU would have the tie. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I see that aspect of it. Yes, that's a good point, because then they would have that. So yes, you are correct. ODU actually stands no chance to get to the championship game. But record-wise, they could be tied with the team that gets there, but it would come down to the tiebreaker over why they wouldn't get there. I guess that's kind of how I was breaking it down. So that's why they were included, because they could be there tied for number one, but why would they lose? Because of the tiebreakers. So yeah, that's one of those ones where you run the scenarios 10 times to make sure you got it right. And I probably just missed out on the fact that, technically they could not possibly win it. But that's a good point. Ben has said he was going to bed, but he hasn't left, because he said Rebels in an all-time series versus ULM is 31-14. And the series versus ODU is only 0-1, but Rebels lost by 3 in that one meeting so far. And G. Will says, trust me, boys, I looked at this walking back to my car and then cried.
I'm going with you.
Well, you know what, though? This could be fun, because you could just be the one that breaks everybody else's dreams. You could help put Marshall in a bad predicament. You could help end A-State's chance. So you could have a lot of fun with the end of the season. TJ, I don't really think you guys were ever in that predicament at App. I mean, there wasn't a year where you didn't have a shot at something that was just going to end somebody else's hopes, right?
No, there was in 2007, we did tie for the conference championship with Wofford of all teams, because Wofford owned the tiebreaker, because they beat us after we beat Michigan.
Yeah.
So we split the conference championship with Marshall my junior year.
Okay. That was a 3-way tie, wasn't it?
Was it a 3-way tie? I know it was us and Wofford.
I think 2007 was a 3-way tie between App, Georgia Southern, and Wofford.
Let's see.
You fact check me on that, and I'll bring up our Rumble fan who likes to comment over there. He's saying, I don't see how JMU will lose against App State. The only way they do is it gets into a crazy score fest and JMU's defense has a bad day. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible that's the way that they would lose it. But that's, I don't know. I don't have good feelings about it, but I will be there, and I will probably feel very differently right before kickoff, because that's usually what happens in my mind. Walking into the stadium, I'm trying to get myself up and ready for it. And Artie is saying, awesome show, guys. It's going to be an awesome last few weeks. Yeah, definitely. I mean, is literally reason to watch any game in the conference. So,
yeah, no, it was just us. It was Wofford and App State.
Okay.
And another fact is 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, 2010, Wofford again. We tied with Wofford in 2010. And then in 2012 is what you're talking about, when it was App State, Georgia Southern, and Wofford. That was tied for the Southern Conference Championship. And then we went to, and then in 2013, we joined the Sun Belt.
Yeah. Okay.
Or no, App State, Elon, Georgia Southern. Yeah. App State, Elon, and Georgia Southern leave the Southern Conference in 2013. Obviously, us and Georgia Southern came here to the Sun Belt, and I'm not sure where Elon went, but yeah,
they went to the Colonial.
Okay, So when I say things like we haven't had a bad season since 2005, I mean it. It's 6-1, 7-0, 5-2, 8-0, 8-0, 7-1, 7-1, 6-2, and then we joined the Sun Belt and have been in a bowl game ever since, except this season.
Well, we missed one the other year too.
Oh yeah, it was in 2020, right, or 2021?
Yeah, I guess it was the COVID year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the COVID year we didn't play one.
Yeah.
Felt like that was it anyway.
So
terrible season all the way around.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Coastal Carolina fan, then you loved that COVID season.
Right, true.
And G. Will saying Ben was still on drugs because ODU is 2-0 against A-State. And he also says it doesn't make sense how we've played A-State 3 times or about to play them 3 times after this season, but haven't played Troy or ULM yet. Yeah, I mean, I could see you wanting to play Troy. Not sure what the draw is for ULM, but yeah, surprising that you don't play that. It was kind of like the other year, App State and Texas State went head-to-head like 3 years in a row as cross-division teams. It's like, how does this make sense? How do we keep drawing Texas State?
Right.
And then, of course, we don't get them on the years when they're a little bit better. We actually lost to them that one year when they weren't very good. So very interesting. I have one last thing since it's an hour and 13 minutes in here is what I'm looking at. One last fun thing here that I saw today. This is called Terrible Maps. They're on Twitter. No free ads, but this is an account that tweets out random things. They have a map of the United States with fried chicken restaurants and what each state favors the most or likes the most. I forget how they phrased it. First of all, I want to say this.
Wrong.
This is wrong, and I think it's wrong in every single state, and here's why. Because I don't know anybody who's going to go first and foremost to a fast food restaurant for fried chicken over some better like mom and pop establishments. If you live close enough to TJ, you're not going there over what TJ can cook you up. And there's plenty of like local barbecue places, everything that actually has the best fried chicken. I think that's what they said. That's why I took a exception to this map. But I also took exception specifically to the state of North Carolina because it lists KFC.
Yes, it's far and away Bojangles.
I agree. There's no chance that it's anywhere
far and away. Me and my brother got Bojangles 2 nights ago.
Yeah. Okay. And Jewel says, I'm appalled. What is it? Is Zaxby's a showing for Virginia? So we've got to know what.
And Zaxby's is good, but there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, all right. So Popeyes is predicated on like Cajun, and
yeah. So why are they all the way? What is that? Wyoming? What is that state?
Well, that's Idaho, way out west with Popeyes. But Louisiana, again, Popeyes, Cajun. It's all Cajun. They talk about New Orleans. It's in the commercials. Church's Chicken is what's representing Louisiana. Let me tell you, I've been in Louisiana numerous times. I don't think I've ever seen a Church's Chicken.
I was going to say, I don't know that I've ever seen a Church's Chicken in Louisiana.
Yeah. Nobody in West Virginia is eating Bojangles. Nope. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know what you're missing, but
yeah. Well, they have some really good Tudors. I think Tudors is the biscuit place that's really good, and maybe they do fried chicken there too. Battle for the Gavel. They're running a cool contest though. For those still with us right now, they're giving away free tickets to I believe it's the Marshall and JMU game. I believe that's one it was. They can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you go follow them and retweet their stuff, they are giving away free tickets to that one. So definitely go do that. Bojangles is for North and South Carolina. I agree. I'm so shocked that Zaxby's is South Carolina, but I do think I've heard
that's not correct. That's not correct at all. South Carolina, I used to live in Columbia, South Carolina. I lived there for a year and a half. I went to Bojangles. There wasn't even a Zaxby's within like 20 miles of me.
Yeah. I think I heard Zaxby's is kind of in that Georgia area. So that one doesn't shock me, but I don't know enough maybe to
Zaxby's is good. Don't get me wrong. Zaxby's is good.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to buy a piece of fried chicken from Zaxby's before I go to Bojangles or KFC.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the last time I stepped foot in a KFC unless you consider those Taco Bell / KFCs.
Yeah.
KFC.
Yeah.
I ain't going for the KFC.
No, and I don't mind KFC. It's just the skin of their chicken isn't crunchy.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I agree. I don't like that part either. G. Wills is saying for Virginia, he says it's a tie between Bojangles and KFC. Only churches that exist in Norfolk was in Norfolk, and it closed in 2014 and replaced with a Popeyes.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Warren, who is a Troy fan, so down there in Alabama, says Churches is his least favorite. And again, that's what they've got down there in the state of
Makes no
Alabama.
sense.
Popeyes representing Mississippi there. Maybe. I don't know. Is there any that are Raising Cane's is taken off more in the Midwest and West? It does have weirdly Ohio, Illinois, and was that Wisconsin up there?
Mm-hmm.
So, or I'm sorry, Minnesota. Wisconsin's
Minnesota,
KFC.
yeah.
So yeah, I have a hard time believing this map is correct. But
it's not. It's just not. New York is not picking KFC.
Yeah, and a Rumble fan is saying this chicken election map was rigged. Yeah, I do agree. Somebody rigged this. And to be fair, the name of the account that tweeted this out was Terrible Maps. Maybe they do this on purpose to piss people off and get interaction because it works. But I don't know. Also, like, doesn't Boston Market do maybe they don't do fried chicken, but the whole Northeast is all KFC from New York up? Like, I have a hard time believing that.
There's no way. There's no way.
G. Will says, I take back saying Ben was on drugs. Whoever made this map is clearly on cloud nine. Oh, okay. TJ, tell me if you've heard of Goldfingers.
I have not, but it sounds awesome.
I know. I've thought the same thing. There's also a place in Alabama called Foosackly's, as we've heard the Troy boys tell us numerous times that the South Alabama fans like to work at Foosackly's before coming to the games and whatever else they say. Who is trusting fried chicken in New York? Not me.
Yeah, unless I get it from
fried rack. And I can tell you from living in Pennsylvania that until just a few years ago, Bojangles didn't even exist in that state. So how are you telling me that Bojangles is now the favorite fried chicken of the state of Pennsylvania?
It's not.
I don't.
My wife's from Mercer, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. There's not even a Bojangles like within 100 miles of there.
Yeah.
And I'm not even exaggerating.
No, I don't doubt it. In fact, that was kind of the situation I was in until Reading, Pennsylvania, and then maybe one or two other places kind of local to my hometown there got a Bojangles, but none of them are like around the corner. I mean, you're not going to grab it and then not eating it immediately, right? Like you don't go grab it and bring it home to eat like you do with other fast food, because it's not fast to get to a Bojangles and back in the state of Pennsylvania. For most residents, anyway. I don't know if that's a situation with West Virginia too, but yeah. Artie Cat's saying Kenny Rogers Golden Rooster. That's a restaurant, Artie? Is that what's down there in Texas? Maybe.
It sounds awesome. I like Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, I would give it a shot. Again, that's the other big part. Like I said with this map, like there's so many little local places that people are going to favor over fast food restaurants. But I do get the appeal of like these are the best known chains, so it makes sense to do it. But yeah,
there's even more chain chicken places than this.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They also left out some. That's why I feel like whoever made this map just wanted to make people mad and just put people. I haven't had Guthrie's, but I've been hearing good things about Guthrie's. So is that a standalone or is that a small chain in your area, Warren? You gotta have to let us know about Guthrie's, because I have heard some things about that place. Northern Virginia used to be crawling with Roy Rogers. I've never been to a Roy Rogers. I've seen very few of them, but I don't know of any that exist currently, especially around. I mean, DJ, is that one ringing a bell with you? You've heard of Roy Rogers?
I've heard of it, yeah, but I've never been to one.
Okay, I haven't either. I just knew I had to throw this one in there because it made me mad when I saw it, and I figured it would spark some outrage across our Sunbelt region with people lovingly with their barbecue and fast food thoughts. I know in the group of 5 chat that I'm a part of on Twitter, we were all talking about chicken places and ranking them a couple weeks ago. So that's another reason why I thought it was important to put this one on the show and wrap up with this, because I thought it was fun.
I mean, you actually might be better off picking Smithfield's than KFC for North Carolina.
Yeah. I've been to Smithfield's a few times, but very few, like maybe twice. And
Yeah, Smithfield is delicious.
yeah, I was not disappointed, but I wasn't blown away, I guess is what I would say. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't frequent them, but I would go there before I went to KFC.
yeah, no, that's true. I would definitely do the same thing too.
I'm looking here. They've got Chick-fil-A as one. Chick-fil-A doesn't have fried chicken. I mean, I guess technically the chicken sandwich is fried.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. You can't have Chick-fil-A because that's not a true fried chicken. I'm thinking fried chicken on the bone. Like that's
that's me too. So essentially, in North Carolina, it's Bojangles, Smithfield, KFC, and Zaxby's. And Zaxby's and KFC don't hold a candle. Neither does Smithfield to Bojangles. I mean, it's far and away Bojangles.
Yeah. You got? I know Popeyes are popping up a little bit more in our area now. Is there Popeyes near you?
It's in Zebulon, so I got to drive a little ways.
Okay,
but not bad. I do like.
Not bad. I wasn't blown away. If you tell me Cajun seasoning, I'm expecting spice and flavor to punch me in the mouth, and that's not what I got. I don't know if they dumb it down in certain locations or something, but I was a little disappointed. Warren is saying that Guthrie's is a small chain, so you probably have to be down there right in that area to get down there and experience that. G. Wills is telling us to check out the Gold Rust sandwich online for Roy Rogers. You'll want to go. And Artie says, Kenny tried a chain of chicken in the 90s, also in a classic Seinfeld episode. Okay. So no longer in existence, I guess, but once a fried chicken chain. I guess if you want to make money, get a fast food fried chicken establishment because these seem to be very popular. I know we have, do you have a Raising Cane's near you yet?
We don't. Not yet.
We
are getting one.
Okay. We've got one in downtown Chapel Hill. I've yet to go to it. Every time I bring it up to my wife, she's like, I'm not going there.
I mean, I get it.
And I have heard this, and I've heard this from multiple people. It's the sauce. Like, it's not the chicken that's all that amazing. It's the sauce that's really good. So apparently Cane's has got great kicking sauce, or I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a fun way to wrap up the show. You got any last thoughts or feelings before we close things out here?
No, getting ready for a great 2 weeks of football in the Sun Belt. I mean, it's a lot of teams have a lot of chance to win the Sun Belt, and so excited about what's to come. These are some great matchups. I think it's going to be, like I said, that Marshall matchup. It's going to be awesome this week to watch. I think it's going to be one of the best games we've got going. But yeah, tune into all of them, and we'll be here next week, same time, same channel to talk it over with you.
Yep, absolutely agree. Warren's letting us know, okay, coming weeks, let's do best breakfast plays. Yeah, we could try that. We'll see if Terrible Maps tweets something out for that one because it might take us a little while. I don't know if I could put a graphic together that nice. I'll just clip art some stuff over top of the ones that are already there. Oh, right. Man. But yeah, exciting times to come. Lots of question marks. Only some will be answered this weekend, but we will update everything and come at you with a better look next week. Maybe some predictions, some harder predictions, and see where we go from here. But thanks for joining the show. We will see you guys next week.